It's that time of the week where we dive into the Athletics MLB Power Rankings, but on this occasion, I want to spend a bit more time talking about one particular player and how we should all be in awe of what this man, who may or may not be playing as the designated hitter for the Los Angeles Dodgers, is doing. We may never see this again in our lives, and he hasn't even got to full force yet. So let's not waste any time and let's talk baseball. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome to Let's Talk Baseball. I'm your host, Tom Scholes, and today, quite simply, this is going to be a run-through of the teams who are in the good positions and in the not good positions in the Athletics MLB Power Rankings for the week. However, as I mentioned in the intro, as we get towards the end and as we get to the top spot, there is one player I want to discuss in full detail and dedicate quite a lot of time to talking about his excellence and how great he actually is, and is he somehow being underappreciated? But we'll get to that when it comes to it. We'll start off, no need for pleasantries, let's start off with number 30, the Chicago White Sox. On this week, the power rankings on the Athletic is very interesting to read, but what they've also seemed to have done is as each moment goes on and each week goes on, they add a new twist to their power rankings. And this one is the players that they miss and who we wish were there for the respective teams. The Chicago White Sox is pretty obvious who they've been missing and who they wish were still with them, and that is Dylan Cease, the pitcher. He's been fantastic. A lot of these teams, as they realise with the Colorado Rockies in the next spot, there isn't that much that can change that one person can do to make them a better team. But nevertheless, it's better than figuring out who their 1 month MVPs were like last week, or who the star of the day is, or anything along those lines. This one is ever so slightly more interesting, and it's fun to look at the missing pieces of what makes these teams very good. The Colorado Rockies, with an 8-26 record, have a player, any player, really. Any player the Rockies would be making sure would be good. The player that they said they wish you were here was yes. Simply yes. Just anybody would have made this team good. Who does this team miss, reads the article. You can't miss players if you're bringing back essentially the same roster every year. So instead of pretending that Randall Grichuk would have been a difference maker on this team, just look at who they're missing prompt in a different way. They're missing all sorts of things. That's the long and short of it for this team. They're not very good, they haven't been very good for a while, and they're not exactly missing anybody who would have made them better. Unlike the 28th placed Miami Marlins, who have just traded away their best hitter in Luis Arias, who is also the Athletics pick for Wish You Were Here. Too soon? Maybe, but it rings true. They've lost Sandy Alcantara and Yuri Perez to elbow reconstruction. Braxton Garrett is hurt. Trevor Rogers has been unable to build upon his 2021 breakout campaign. The club is going nowhere in 2024. It made sense for new president of baseball operations, Peter Bendix, to start dealing away useful big league players from minor league reinforcements. This isn't necessarily my words, even though I agree with them. These are the words from the Athletic article. With Arias gone, though, it becomes that much more challenging for the Marlins to score runs on a daily basis. In the long run, the trade may look like a coup for Bendix, especially if Dylan Head reaches his ceiling. In a short term, an already struggling team became that much harder to watch. I really don't like the Marlins, and this isn't against Marlins fans. There's something about the Marlins that have rubbed me up the wrong way. And why that is, I'm going to get this up because they lost last night 6-3 to the Dodgers. We'll get into that later on. But what they have essentially done is, by trading away their best player from 2023 and the terrible start they've had to 2024, scrap the year completely. Pointless year, waste of time investing your time and money into it. Why would you do it? And the problem with that is, last year, they were actually relatively decent. They were actually a relatively good team. We're in May. 7th of May is when we are recording this. And Peter Bendix, who is in his first year of being the head of baseball operations at the Marlins, replacing Kim Ng, who was unceremoniously removed from her position, said, "We are unlikely to make the playoffs this year. It's May. It's May!" The Marlins are 9-26, and they are 14.5 games out of first place in the National League East. Yes, their season is done. Don't say it in May. Don't say it in May. It's just embarrassing. It really, really is embarrassing. And they're going to try to get rid of as many players as they can. Josh Bell will probably be gone. Jazz Chisholm Jr. will be gone. Jake Berger probably will be gone. If it wasn't for the fact, weirdly, if it wasn't for the fact he had Tommy John surgery last year, Sandy Alcantara would be gone. All you can do is shake your head. All you can do is shake your head at the situation, how they got themselves in it. Because let's be honest, it's not worthy of this time because they're that irritating. They've been that poor with how they've run their business that who cares? Number 27 is the Los Angeles Angels. Their wish you were here player was Shohei Ohtani because obviously, in years to come, the Angels fans will look back and go, at one point in time, they had two of the best players to ever play the game on their team at the exact same time and did nothing with them. Zilch. It was horrendous. They never made the playoffs, never made the postseason. You could buy a ticket, watch Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani play on the same team in the Californian sun. And they did nothing with it. Why? What? God, it must be bad being an Angels fan, especially when you see what Shohei's doing over on the other side of LA. 26 of the Nationals, 25 of the Pirates, 24th rather of the Oakland Athletics, who are actually sneaky good. They're not bad, they're not awful, they're sneaky good. They're sneaky good, and a lot more respect should be put on their name. 23, the modicum of mediocrity and consistency of the St. Louis Cardinals. Their player was Tyler O'Neill, not Jordan Montgomery, not Jack Flaherty, or Jordan Hicks, but Tyler O'Neill. Because their pitching has not been awful, but their offense has been awful. 22nd, San Francisco Giants. The Reds, the Mets, make up the rest of the 20s. The Diamondbacks are still in a weird spot. Montgomery hasn't been amazing for them. Corbin Carroll's been so bad. I saw people online kind of hinting, not saying it's going to happen, but hinting that he might be sent down. And I found that hard to believe. I thought it was just rumour. And I thought it was just like, it is what it is. But you look at the stats and no, it's just not there. It's just not there for them at the moment. I feel bad for him because I'm a really big fan of his. 18th, Toronto Blue Jays. Their wish you were here player is the 21 version of Vlad Guerrero Jr. In 2021, Guerrero led the American League in home runs with 48. He had the highest on-base percentage with 401. His slugging percentage was 601. And he would have won the American League MVP if it wasn't for Shohei Ohtani. At that point in time, he looked like he was going to be one of the next big stars of the league. Following his dad's massive footsteps, there looked like there was going to be a lot of hype that was justified, a lot of praise that was justified. But instead, it's been a bit of a disappointment. He's been solid. And that's it. 2024 has been a horrible start for him. It's been an average start for the Blue Jays. What more do you want to say? They've got the talent, but it just isn't clicking. And I wonder how much the pressure that was being put on some of these young players. Because there was a point in time where that team had the makings of a really strong young team. And they added in players like George Springer to add to the mix. And, Matt Chapman was there. And you looked at it and just went, that's not bad. This is a good team that will get better in theory. In reality, it hasn't. And it's shown. And it's been really poor. I like it as a fan of this particular team that they have kind of drifted away. But as a neutral and certainly as a Blue Jays fan, and considering the off season they had, where they could have got Bellinger and there was a lot of rumours around him, didn't get him. There was a lot of rumours around Shohei Ohtani taking a flight to Toronto that didn't exist, and he eventually didn't go. And it just feels a bit of a burst balloon for the Blue Jays. And they might turn it round. They're certainly not in an awful situation, but they're certainly not in a great situation. So for their own sake and for the sake of these players, you'd want them to improve drastically, but you just never know. 17th for the Houston Astros. The pitching staff is struggling massively. So their wish you were here player is Framber Valdez. They bring Justin Verlander back. That will be a massive improvement, provided he hits the ground running. But they're off to a really bad start. 16th for the Tigers. I've just spent the past couple of days watching these guys as they came into New York for the series against the Yankees, and I was confused by them. Not in a bad way, but in a... When you see a team that is quite clearly not terrible, but has the makings of potentially being good, and then you look at certainly the pitching-wise. I think pitching-wise they're a very fun team. But offensively, there feels like there's a lot to be had, a lot to be seen, and they're leaving a lot on the table. What I did realise from that series, actually, whilst we're on that topic, the state of Major League umpires. Oh my God! It's disgraceful. They're an embarrassment. They're so bad. They're the worst thing about the league at the moment because they are influencing games when they don't need to. Aaron Judge got his ejection, the first one in his career, and I believe it was the first Yankees captain to be ejected from a game since Don Mattingly in 1994. Judge will argue calls because Judge is an abnormally large human, and sometimes his strike zone is umped differently than other players. Naturally, because he's so much taller, the distance is different. What would be a strike to some players will be a ball to him, or whatever. But for what he was ejected for was minimal. You had the incident where Aaron Boone was ejected for something a fan behind him said, and then that umpire came out afterwards and essentially said, no, I don't eject players or managers because of what fans said. Sorry, mate, you did. It happened. Tough. Admit your mistake and move on. No one would have a problem if you turned around afterwards and then went, you know what? Yeah, I thought it was him. I've looked back after it wasn't him. I apologise. I've been to apologise to Boone. Absolutely fine. You have the Judge ejection. You have the multiple missed calls. That I don't know whether it's just because I'm paying more attention to them at the moment or anything like that. But good God Almighty, they miss so many, and there's so many missed calls that you look at and go, "How did you miss this? How did you miss this?" I know some people look at it and go, "Well, the strike zone that the television broadcasts have don't help because it can deceive what the viewers see." But some of these calls have been so bad, not just in this Tigers Yankee series, but in a lot of others, where you have fans of pretty much every fan base going, how's this happened? How's he missed it? How has this gone this way? It's disgraceful. Automatic strike zones are needed immediately. 15 are the Kansas City Royals. 14 are the San Diego Padres. Their player that they wish was there was Juan Soto. What a player he is, by the way. Now that I watch him week in, week out, you can fully appreciate just how good he is as a player. He has that aura. He has that special kind of... He just comes in and makes the team better. For any Liverpool fans that listen or watch this, he's that Van Dijk of the team. But they needed an upgrade. They've not just got an upgrade, but they've got an upgrade that has aura about them. Juan Soto is that player, and I can fully understand why the Padres, who are 19 and 19 and are moving up the rankings, they are getting better. But when you lose a player like that, it's only natural that you'd want him back. 13th for the Rays, 12th are the Red Sox, who are performing quite well at the moment at 19 and 16. 11, the Brewers. Their player is Corbin Burns. I can only imagine how good this team would be if they kept Corbin Burns on the roster, which in a way kind of makes that trade even more annoying from a Brewers point of view. Then you've got the Texas Rangers at number 10. The player that they have as wish you were here is last season's Corey Seager. Last season's Corey Seager probably would have won the American League MVP. And then there's that little asterisk next to it with the title, if it wasn't for Shohei Ohtani. He is a fantastic player, but he's just playing at an average pace at the moment. Nothing seems to be going his way, and nothing is in a way where, you look at him and go, this is an MVP candidate. I've got no doubt that he'll come back to it. I've got no doubt this team will be in the postseason, and I've got no doubt this team will be very difficult to beat. But right now, slightly underwhelming, despite the positive record and despite the good start they've had. 9, the Chicago Cubs. 8, the Seattle Mariners. 7, the Twins, who have... Their player is Royce Lewis. It could easily have been Sonny Gray, who has been electric for the Cardinals, but I think the thing with Royce Lewis is everybody knows how good he is. And when he's healthy, he is amazing. But because you've only had them glimpses of him, and because you've only had them looks at him that makes you go, oh, imagine if he was fully fit. Imagine if he was healthy all the time. You'd get a really, really good player. Easily one of the best players that they have. Probably will be one of the best players in the league if he maintains his fitness. 6 is the Guardians. They're performing very well at the moment. But imagine if they had Shane Bieber. And I think this is what a lot of these teams will be. And as we head into the top 5, a lot of the players that you look at in this situation will be, this team is playing well, but imagine how much better they would be if they had insert player here. And the Cleveland Guardians with Shane Bieber is exactly that situation. They are incredible. And as it says here, if you go onto Bieber's baseball reference page, his ERA for the 2024 season is 0. 2 starts, 12 innings, no earned runs allowed. And then he gets injured. It's annoying. That is annoying, if anything. Number 5 is the Phillies, with Trey Turner out for at least 6 weeks. Yes, injuries happen and these things happen, but they're still a very good team. 4 is the New York Yankees. Their wish you were here is Garrett Cole. As anybody who watches this regularly will know that I have spoken about the Yankees for time upon time upon time, because I know how good this team can be this season with a better rotation. Carlos Rodon has played really well, in my opinion. Nestor Cortez Jr. has a couple of iffy starts, but overall hasn't been awful. Marcus Stroman, exactly the same. But it won't be too long until the reigning American League Cy Young is added back to the Yankees rotation. And, it's a good rotation. It's a good rotation at the moment. But if you add Garrett Cole in instead of Lewis Hill, or Clark Schmidt, I think it'll be Hill, that makes the way. You then have Garrett Cole, Carlos Rodon, Nestor Cortez Jr., Marcus Stroman, and Clark Schmidt. And if Clark Schmidt is your worst pitcher in your rotation, you've got a pretty good rotation, in my opinion. So yeah, obviously he's going to be the guy they want back. The Orioles are at 3 with a great record. They're going to be such a hard team to come up against. That series the Yankees had against them was close, not as doomsday-ish as some fans were hinting at. I certainly don't subscribe to that theory, but my God, what a team they are. Really, really good team. Speaking of really, really good teams, the 20-12 Atlanta Braves. If Spencer Strider was on this team, again, we keep saying it again, if this player was on this team, if this player was on this team. If Spencer Strider was on this team, Christ, they'd be number 1. Easily number 1. And yes, it's a obvious answer, but sometimes obvious is the correct one. And the number 1 is the Los Angeles Dodgers with a 24-13 record. Their wish you were here player is Evan Phillips, and with all due respect to Evan Phillips, I don't care about Evan Phillips right now. There is one player that I want to talk about, and it is possibly the greatest player we've ever seen play this game. Shohei Ohtani. What a player you have become, and what a player you are. The guy had, when the Dodgers swept the Braves, Ohtani had 4 hits, 2 home runs, and I believe he drove in 6 RBIs. Slug is part of my game, said Ohtani through his new interpreter. Ohtani's latest home run in the Braves series was the 3rd longest at Dodger Stadium in the StatCast era. Admittedly, that was started in 2015. When you factor in the pressure he had of signing that new massive contract, and yes, the intricacies of it are he's making $2 million a year and 68 on the back end of it, or whatever it is. The reality is people see $70 million a year and expect greatness. They see the Dodgers uniform and they see Betts, Freeman, Muncy, Smith, Glasnow, Yamamoto, and expect greatness. Because you are burdened with the pressure of the price tag, and you are inserted into a very good team for the first time in your American career. And he's slotted in seamlessly. To the point where he's on the cover of the New Yorker. He is performing a clip that I don't think anybody really expected. And what I mean is, when you watch someone play so well for so long, you get used to their excellence. The same thing has happened with Lionel Messi over the years. Same thing has happened with LeBron James, Cristiano Ronaldo, all of this kind of stuff. When their abnormal greatness becomes normal, and what I mean by normal is their standard, everybody else looks and goes, well, you're meant to be doing this. This is what you're meant to do. Shohei Ohtani has outperformed, I think, outperformed what people have expected from him at the beginning of this season. Because this guy was expected to be good, but there was a caveat of, well, we don't know how good he'll be when he's rehabbing his arm, and we don't know how good he'll be just as a DH. He's been amazing. He's been absolutely amazing. I can't put into words just how good I think this guy is. And I know it's like a running joke that people online talk about Ohtani a lot. But it's because we're seeing something that I don't think a lot of people have seen. It's amazing. It's so good to watch. I think he's actually underappreciated in a weird way. Because people are expecting how good he is. Because people are used to seeing him pull off extraordinary feats. And play extraordinarily well. We saw it at the Angels, but the difference is he has a really good team to back him up. He's not relying on himself and Mike Trout to pull them out of danger. He doesn't need to rely on anybody. He's just playing his game, knowing the pitching staff is better, the management is better, the players are better, and everything is just better. I cannot wait to see this guy play, fingers crossed, on Yankee Sunday, on June 7th. I have seen LeBron James. I have seen Lionel Messi. I have seen Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, Cristiano Ronaldo. This guy's up next on the GOAT list. That's how good he is. Because when this guy is done playing, there's going to be a lot of players, a lot of fans across the world who will turn around and go, I saw Otani play. The same way that there will be people that said, I saw Mantle play. I saw DiMaggio play. That's how good this guy is. I cannot wait. Soto, Cole, Judge, Otani, Betts, Freeman. Like a kid in a candy store. But Otani is great. Otani is one of the best. And by the time this 10-year deal at the Dodgers is over, he might actually be the greatest player Major League Baseball has ever seen. Because we've never seen anything like this before. And he's about to start pitching next year again. Thank you very much for watching. This has been a relatively short episode, but I've enjoyed just chatting about nonsense, getting some thoughts out, and just having a really fun time with it. Thank you for watching. Remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel, comment below, keep an eye out for the YouTube shorts and the TikToks and the short form content. This has been Let's Talk Baseball. Thank you very much for watching.